Good morning. I hope everybody's having a fantastic morning today. There are a lot of things I'd like to do today. We are going to work on a text. Of course, the past few weeks we have been working on a theme, a planet in need of repair. All right. Having that in mind, we've talked about recycling, we talked about global warming. We even had a bit of a discussion, and this discussion surprised me, really. I did not expect a lot of you not to like Greta Thunberg. I thought that you actually would like her. But apart aside from one person on here, everyone was really negative. I think one or two people had something positive to say about Greta. Everyone else was really negative, and I was really surprised by it because my previous students in other schools, when we talked about her, they actually had a very positive attitude towards her. I myself have to say, I don't agree with everything that she stands for, but there is a percentage of the stuff that she talks about that I agree with. I feel like we should do our part. I don't think that we should feel like we are utterly responsible for everything that happens in the universe, but I feel like we can do our part. We can recycle our stuff. We can make sure that we don't use too much plastic. We can make sure that we reuse as much as we can reuse, but I don't think that we should be having this feeling of terror that, oh no, everything's going to come to an end tomorrow. No, I feel like you can approach that with a less desperate and urgent perspective. And I feel like she becomes a little bit too desperate and too, she makes me nervous sometimes with the stuff that she says in the way that she says it, because it feels like it's almost like it gives me a sense of terror. And I don't like that. But I do like the message of saving the planet. The planet is in need of repair. That is true. So, of course, you can agree or disagree with me. It's perfectly all right. But what I want you to take away from this, what I really want you to take away from this, is that we are going to finish the chapter on a planet in need of repair, talking about something that we may have touched on slightly, and it's waste. We talked about that a little bit when we talked about recycling. But let's talk about waste. How much do you think that you waste? How much food do you waste every day? If you feel that you do. I just want a yes or no on this. Do you eat everything that's on your plate? Do you eat everything that's on your plate? I grew up part of my life in the United States, part of my life in Brazil, coming and going to the US every summer in Brazil. I would go to the US when it was winter, and I lived there when I was going to high school. I lived there when I was little, when I had my Disneyland and King's Dominion dream of, wow, a magical world. But one thing that kept my perspective was the part of my life that I spent in Brazil. One of the things that my mom would say to me every single time that we were sitting at the table, finish what's on your plate. Finish what's on your plate because there are little boys and little girls out in the world right now who don't have as much food as you. So you better finish what's on your plate. I kind of hit the microphone. Sorry about that. So she's like, you'd better finish what's on your plate. So I grew up with that, and not everyone's going to agree with my mom on that. Eat everything that's on your plate. But mommy, I'm not hungry. No, come on, there are people starving out in the world. Okay, well, say what you will about my mom with that, but I feel like I only put on my plate what I'm gonna eat. And I feel in that manner, I cannot waste so much. So I want a yes or no. Do you eat everything that's on your plate? Or do you leave a whole bunch of it and then you throw it in the garbage? Do you eat everything that's on your plate? Do your moms and dads say something like, hey, aren't you going to finish? You're wasting food. It is a very cultural matter. The reason why I'm posing this question is it's a cultural matter on many levels. And why do I say that? I feel like it's easy to get comfortable with what you have when you have a life that is abundant. Have you ever heard that word? Abundant. You have a lot. That's what it means. You have a lot of everything. You don't have to count how many potatoes you can put on your plate because there's always one more potato there for you. There are several potatoes for you. There's plenty of food to go around, so you don't have to think about that so much. So I didn't grow up poor. I grew up in a very privileged situation. Still, my parents would tell me, make sure that you eat everything that you have. Make sure that you clean your plate. So, wasting food, that's one thing, not wasting food. How do I do my part? I eat everything that's on my plate. How about eating out? I want everybody to post right now, to put in the chat box, how much food do you eat that's takeout, takeaway, or takeout? I want you to tell me how many times in a week, because I think it's easier to read the chat and see and check for statistics. So, in a week has 7 days. How many days do you eat out or do you order out? I'm actually including both. Yeah. In a week, out of 7 days, how often? How often do you eat out or do you order out? Just put a number. 2 for 2 days, 3 for 3 days. I'm not sure if because of the pandemic now things are so different. You can't even take anything that we're doing now as normal or as average. But let's take the pandemic into consideration. Do you eat out less now because of what's going on since you're like, oh, I can't be bothered to put on a mask and go on and then sit with a mask on and then have to take the mask off to eat and then I have to put the mask back on to go to the bathroom or it's too much. I'd rather just eat in my house, whatever it is. So I want to see in the chat how often. 2 times a week, 3 times a week. It might be different in each household. And some people in the area where you all live, a farming community, there might be some people that grow their own vegetables. They have their own animals that they also use for food. They get all their food, they're self-sustainable communities. So some of you may not even have to go anywhere to get your food if you don't want to. You can completely just live off the land. It's possible. I know that some of you are hunters, so it's very possible too that you hunt for your food. So there are lots of different circumstances that we can look at, lots of different scenarios. How many of you are vegan or vegetarian? Last year in one of my Spanish classes, I had a student who was a vegetarian. I tried to be vegetarian for a year and I didn't eat meat for one whole year. During that year, I tried to be a vegan for 10 days and it was incredibly difficult. Not gonna bash vegans. Mama's not bashing anybody who's vegan. All I'm saying is that it was hard. Why was it hard? I am not somebody who cooks. When I got married 24 years ago, at the very beginning of that relationship, I told him, "Hey, I don't cook. I I don't do housework. So you're going to have to do all of that." And he was okay with that for most of the marriage because I never was somebody who cooked. I worked 75 hours a week and I came home, there was always food and the house was always clean for some of the marriage when I was living in Brazil. But I digress. What I'm trying to say is that when you cook and you have ideas for recipes, oh, let me make vegan lasagna, let me make vegan this, vegan that. It's incredibly easy to eat things that you find appealing to the taste and they're also vegan and healthy when you can make them yourself. But when you don't have somebody to make the food for you, it becomes really difficult when you're not a cook. So for me, veganism lasted 10 days. Vegetarianism, a whole year. I didn't even miss the meat. It wasn't difficult. But being a vegan was difficult because when you're a vegan, you can't eat cheese, you can't have yogurt, you can't have anything that has dairy. So it makes it really difficult. Now, my question is, yes or no? Do you think vegans are doing a better job at saving the environment than people who eat meat? Yes or no? It's just out of curiosity here, and it's within the scope of what we're talking about, which is waste. Do you think that they waste less? Do you think that they're doing a better job at saving the environment? Because I totally believe that if people are vegan and they follow what they say and they are disciplined, I feel like it can be really healthy and it can be wonderful, but it's not easy for everybody. Now, the next point is we talked about eating out, wasting food. The next point is toiletries. Let's talk about toiletries. Deodorant, shampoo, perfume, lotions, toothpaste, all that. Those are toiletries. Now, I have always been perhaps one of the most hygienic people that I have ever met. I shower every day. I brush my teeth two, three times a day. Usually, right after I eat, I brush my teeth. I have toothpaste, toothbrush, and mouthwash at the school for that after lunch. I brush my teeth and I use mouthwash. It's been very important in my entire life. Deodorant, every 3 hours, Mama reapplies her deodorant. Is that going to become a thing now that I'm going to be calling myself Mama? Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. Anyway, so deodorant is very important and perfume. Up until a few months ago, I always put on perfume. Now I am prohibited from using perfume. I cannot wear perfume at the school because one of the cleaning ladies, part of the staff, is allergic. So we're not allowed to wear perfume. Maybe it's a good thing that everyone knows now. Perfume or cologne if you're a guy. Perfume girls, cologne for guys. That's just the name, how the names were created. Cologne for men and perfume for girls. I'm not saying that if you want to wear cologne and you're a girl, more power to you. No problem. I'm so afraid of saying something politically incorrect. Anyway, I love perfume, but now I can only wear perfume on the weekends. Kind of bothers me because I love smelling good, but those are toiletries. Perfume, toothpaste, toothbrush. Now, one tube of toothpaste, how long does it last you? Let's put it in months. Does it last you a month, half a month, 2 months? Those of you who are putting in that one tube of toothpaste lasts you a month? How big is that tube? Is it is it like a giant tube of toothpaste? The next question about toiletries. Would you use homemade toothpaste? Would you trust it to keep your breath fresh and your teeth clean? Yes or no? Would you trust, would you ever want to use homemade toothpaste? You're gonna know why I'm saying all of this when we listen and read the text. The text is called How to Become a Zero Waster. So the aim here is to become somebody who never wastes anything. Can you imagine that? Let's talk about clothing now. I'm going through topics that are on the text. This is pretty much a pre-text thing, a pre-reading thing. It may be a little long. Mama's been talking for a long time. This is going to catch on, isn't it, Mama? All right. How often do you go clothes shopping? Now let's go with once a month, once every 2 months. Please type it for me, but type the whole sentence once a month, once every 6 months, once a year. I want you to type it because I just want to hear it on it. I want to hear how often you go how often you go shopping for clothes. Mama doesn't go shopping for clothes very often. What I do is once a year or twice a year, I might buy some clothes. I buy bikinis a lot, used to, not so much anymore after I went over 200, but I digress. What I do is if people have, like my friends, if they have sweaters they don't want anymore, give them to me because I'll wear them. So I have friends who give me their old sweaters that they don't want anymore. I have sweaters that are brand new. Whenever my mom comes to visit, she buys me new sweaters. I get sweaters from my mother-in-law as well. So I don't really go shopping much for clothing. And I think the reason for that is that I don't like wearing sweaters and being bundled up and covered like this. I guess if I were still living in Brazil or in Australia, or if I had stayed in the United States in California, I probably would have gone shopping because I like wearing dresses and skirts and nice things that I don't really get to wear here because it's always too cold for me. I know that you're going to say, no, but Pollyanna, we wear shorts in the summer. We wear dresses. We wear skirts. We wear singlets and all that. Yeah, I know. I've seen it. But I rarely, rarely ever get to feel comfortable with the weather. Right. So what do you think? Now I want you to type in the chat. What do you think would be a very good idea to not waste on clothes, not waste money on clothes, and become a zero waster when it comes to the clothes you already have? What is a good idea? I already gave you my piece of advice. Get hand-me-downs. Hand-me-downs are clothes that belong to somebody else. I have sweaters that belong to my sister Jennifer, my sister from when I lived in the United States. I still have some of the sweaters that she gave me. They were hers and she didn't wear them anymore, so she gave them to me. I still have some of those, and they're like 30 something years of age. But come on, I mean, a sweater is a sweater, and they don't look that different from those from 30 years ago. So hand-me-downs is one. I want to see your suggestions. It's interesting to see what people do for clothing. I'm pretty sure some people go shopping for clothing every single month. Some people do. The next point is decorating furniture. I know that at Selbu Videregående, at this high school, there are people studying to be carpenters. Do you people make your own furniture, or do you know somebody who makes their own furniture to save and to make them environmentally friendly? Has anyone here themselves, or does anyone here know somebody who makes their own furniture? Yes or no? Type. I kind of expected that type of answer. I expected people to say, yeah, I know somebody, or I made it myself. We're almost done. There are 3 points that I want to cover. Next one, cleaning supplies. Does anybody here use any homemade cleaning supplies? Yes or no? Homemade, stuff that you make at your own home. If none of you clean, because you're sitting here thinking, my mom cleans the house, or we have 3 different people that we pay to clean our house. What are you talking about? Have you ever seen how they clean? Do they have any homemade products that they make with some stuff that is found in the home? Or is everything store-bought? Do they buy all this stuff at the store? Ajax, Zalo. Now I'm drawing a blank names of cleaning products that we can find here in Norway. We're going to read some interesting ways that you can become a zero waster when it comes to cleaning products as well in this text. I don't know if you're going to follow the advice, but maybe you can learn something new. Technology. All right, how many of you have had a gazillion different phones? Lots of phones. Your phone, the screen is all cracked. You chuck it, you buy a new one. Do you chuck it? Do you throw it out? Do you recycle it? What do you do with it? Please type in chat. I actually saw an ad on TV about that, about a company that was actually collecting electronics and they could use them for parts. Perhaps the phone is broken, like the screen is cracked, but some of it still works on the inside, so they can recycle that to refurbish a new phone. Yes, now we're going to get to the text. It will be approximately 5 to 6 minutes for you to listen and read. Some of you, if you have migraines, if you have a problem focusing, I am giving you the option to turn down the sound until you see Mama on the screen again. When I come up on the screen, it's because the text is over with. You can read it on your own, although I would really prefer to see you listening and reading simultaneously because it's actually a very good exercise for you for listening skills, for spelling, and it's very important. But I can't force everybody to do. I can't even make sure that you're here. I can try, but I'm just advising you. Some people, for medical reasons, don't do well in these kind of activities. So I'm going to give you the 5, 6 minutes off. So I'm going to disappear from the screen. You're just going to see the text.
How to become a zero waster.
You're going to see the text and you're going to listen to it. I'm not going to be on screen, but when you see me back on the screen, it means that it's over. So then you can turn the sound back on if you have it off because you can't stand to listen to it.
How to become a zero waster by Leanna Cummins.
Zero waste means that I do not produce any garbage. No sending anything to the landfill. No throwing anything in a trash can. Nothing.
In 2012, Lauren Singer, then an environmental studies major at New York University, began documenting her journey towards a zero waste lifestyle on her blog, Trash is for Tossers. Part of her master plan was keeping track of every tiny bit of trash she accumulated in a single mason jar. I had been telling people how to live sustainably, but I wasn't living in a way that aligned with what I cared about, Lauren explains. I felt like a hypocrite, so I decided to stop using plastic. Years later, Lauren is still packing that same mason jar with clothing tags, produce stickers, plastic straws, and other non-recyclable, non-compostable items. Lauren's advice on buying food.
Buying food in bulk allows you to purchase food completely packaged and plastic free, which reduces your waste. Not to mention, it's cheaper. When you buy things in bulk, you're not paying for the price of individual packaging. I'm not vegan, but I make sure to eat local, sustainable food, and I try really hard to know exactly where it comes from.
On eating out.
I generally try to avoid buying takeout. It's really expensive, and it involves so much waste. I try to plan meals ahead of time and make sure my fridge is properly stocked. If I do want to eat out, I'll go to a restaurant and actually sit down to eat. I can't change that restaurant, but I can control my choice thereof. I make sure the restaurants I go to reflect my values and have a sustainable, ethical ethos. I also make sure to bring my own containers and reusable straws from home with me in case I want to grab food or a drink.
On toiletries.
When I was researching ways to transition away from plastic, one of the first pieces of information I found was how to replace store-bought toothpaste. I began testing recipes and eventually settled on one that takes 30 seconds to make, and it's a lot cheaper to make than purchasing toothpaste from the store. I mix coconut oil, baking soda, and peppermint essential oil together, and I purchase all of those ingredients in compostable packaging or bulk. The recipe lasts me up to a year.
On clothes shopping.
I love going to secondhand stores. They save me thousands of dollars. For a good pair of jeans at a regular retailer, you'll pay as much as $150 to $200. I can get the same pair of jeans secondhand for less than $20. You should also figure out your budget before you shop. I often go to the store with items to resell, so if I get back $50 from what I resell, that'll serve as my budget.
On apartment decorating.
I feel there's no need to buy new furniture or household items. I found so much stuff for my apartment on Craigslist. And if I do want to buy furniture, I try to save up to purchase something that's sustainably handmade.
On cleaning supplies.
My suggestion for eliminating toxins in your cleaning routine and reducing waste is to simply make all of your products yourself. And that's not as daunting as it seems. I use basically 3 items to clean my entire home. I put white vinegar in a spray bottle with about 20 drops of citrus essential oils, like grapefruit or lime, to mask the vinegar smell. I use that to clean my glass, counters, and steel surfaces. I use an old toothbrush and baking soda to clean tiles in my shower. And then I use cast-iron soap to clean everything else. Those 3 items are a cheap and easy way to keep your home clean.
On technology.
So many technology purchases are made out of impulse. Ask yourself whether you actually need that item. If you're looking to replace something that's broken, see if you can get it fixed instead. If it turns out you do need to make a purchase, see if you can get it secondhand and recycle the item you're replacing. You can often make money by selling parts from the item you're recycling too. A lot of stores, including Apple, have take-back programs for your old phones, tablets, and other tech items.
On spreading the message.
Sure, it's really time-intensive to do all the research, but I love being informed before I make choices. I fuel myself through my little successes and really enjoy the fact that I'm living by my values. And I'm excited about how much bigger the sustainable lifestyle movement is getting. I really feel like the more people get involved, the more will drive innovation in zero waste alternatives and products.
Yes, I do realize that we may have read this already, and a lot of you have written a summary. Most of you have written a summary about it, have answered the questions about it. But I feel like in one of my groups, the class is separated in two groups to do this. A group does it on their own with my guidance in a classroom, and the other group sits with my assistant in another classroom. Then some of you may have done this at home because you weren't in class. You didn't have either a YouTube video on it or a video conference or anything. You were sitting at home and you received the pages from me and you just did it by yourself. So I felt like it was important for us to look at this on a video class like this. Even if it sounds like it's a repetition, it's good for you because a lot of this might be part of your grade towards the end when you come up and do a presentation. A planet in need of repair could be one of the topics for that. We will discuss this further and see how it goes. But today, what we're going to do is I'm going to go over the questions real quick, really quickly, and you're going to type in the answers in short form. All right, so we don't take too much time. Why does Lauren buy food in bulk? I would have accepted because she wants to save on packaging. She doesn't want to waste money on packaging. She wants to do well for the environment. So she wants to make sure that she doesn't waste packaging. Anything along those lines. Question B, why does she avoid buying takeout food but loves buying secondhand clothes? She talked about the takeout food on the first page here. And she talked about the clothing on the second page of the text. So she talked about the takeout being very expensive and the secondhand clothes that she buys being really cheap. And she doesn't waste anything when she wears secondhand clothing because it means the clothes are going to be continuously worn instead of being thrown out into the environment. Question C, how long does it take her to make toothpaste and how long does it last her? She be she began talking about it on this page, not this. That's another class that we're going to have later when we talk about cults and leaders and stuff like that. So she started talking about it at the very bottom of page 155 on toiletries that she decided to replace the store-bought toothpaste and it takes her 30 seconds to make and it lasts her a year. Letter D. How does Lauren clean her home? Just type in the answers. I don't know if everyone's typing the answer or not. I would have accepted any answer that involves the explanation that she makes her house cleaning products herself and she uses things that are not detrimental to the environment. Letter E, we're almost done. Letter E. What does Lauren recommend that you do if you have a broken piece of technology? See if you can get it fixed instead, sell it for parts. Any of those answers would have been acceptable. Last, before we go on to Quizlet Live, what motivates Lauren to keep living a zero waste lifestyle? Well, anything that you said along the lines of she wants to do her part to save the environment would be accepted. Okay, I hope your phones are charged because we're going to do Quizlet Live. What happens with Quizlet Live is that that's an old video, by the way. Don't pay any attention to that. That is not what was supposed to be on there. But what we're going to do, that's a Spanish class that I taught a few weeks ago. Let's just put this in there instead. So what I want you to do is I want you to make sure that your phones are charged. Make sure that you can still join the game even if you look at the screen right now and it looks like the game has already started. It doesn't mean that it has already started. I'm playing a sample game on the screen for you just to make sure that whoever watches this video can see what you are doing, what kind of activities. So Quizlet Live, we're playing individuals. As soon as you see the code, start playing. I've been using Quizlet in my classes for about 5 years now, I believe. I use it in all sorts of different ways. I use Quizlet Live, of course, But I also use the activities on Quizlet to have my students learn the words and study on their own. Not everyone likes it. I have a lot of Kahoot fans who are like, nah, let's do Kahoots instead. And that's all right. Sometimes we do Kahoot. Sometimes we do Quizlet Live. Today, and in most video classes, I try to do Quizlet Live. As soon as you see the code, please go in. I'm just setting up the sample game. And we're doing the vocabulary from How to Become a Zero Waster from the book Citizens, which I'm piloting this year. And by piloting, I'm using an expression that was taught to me in Portuguese years ago when I was teaching English in Brazil. Whenever a group of teachers used a book for the very first time, it would be called to pilot a book. Okay, everyone, you will probably have gotten your assignments from me either in our group chat or on Canvas, so you know what to do. Have a great day.